Everyone in Victoria Hammond's world agreed on one thing. She was born winning. At 26, Victoria had never filled out a loan application, never worried about rent, never hesitated at a price tag. The word limit didn't exist in her vocabulary. Why would it? When your father is Robert Hammond, a real estate billionaire whose name sits quietly behind some of the most expensive properties in the country, life doesn't come with friction, it comes with options. Victoria moved through the world like it owed her something, dark-skinned, always perfectly styled. Always the center of attention, people leaned in when she spoke. Friends waited for her approval before making plans. She wasn't loud, but she didn't need to be. Her confidence filled the room for her. And Robert adored her. Victoria was Daddy's girl. The one who called late at night with problems that vanished by morning. The one who never heard no. Only we'll fix it. Robert told himself it was love. Protection? Good parenting. He didn't see it was training. This story doesn't begin with a scandal. It begins with a wedding, not Victoria's wedding. Her sister Emma Hammond was getting married. Emma was everything Victoria wasn't: soft-spoken, grounded, practical. She worked in education, loved quiet mornings, and believed deeply in building a life slowly. She was marrying Ethan Cole, a high school teacher with steady values and no interest in appearances. Their wedding budget was $50,000. To Emma, it was perfect. To Victoria, it was embarrassing. They sat in Robert's office one afternoon. Sunlight spilling across polished wood and glass. Emma had just left, excited, glowing, talking about table settings and music choices. Victoria waited until the door closed. That wedding, she said, shaking her head. Dad, it's small. Robert looked up from his tablet. That's what Emma wants. Victoria scoffed lightly. My friends are flying in, people talk. Do you know how this looks? It's not about you, Robert said gently. It's her day. Victoria leaned forward. It's the family's name, your name. Robert sighed. He'd had this conversation before, just in different forms. Emma's marrying for love. She doesn't want a spectacle. There was a pause. Then Victoria smiled, not irritated, not angry, sweet, agreeable. Okay, Daddy, she said softly, I get it. If that's what she wants. Robert relaxed. He believed her. That was his mistake. Because Victoria didn't get it, she tolerated it. And Victoria Hammond had never tolerated something without finding a way to reshape it. Growing up, she'd learned the rules early. If you wanted something, charm worked. If charm failed, leverage worked. And if leverage failed, there was always money. Emma had grown up differently. She loved her sister. But she'd always been careful around her. Careful not to compete, careful not to take up too much space. When Emma asked Victoria to be her maid of honor, her voice shook. I want you next to me, Emma said. It wouldn't feel right without you. Victoria hugged her. Tight, warm, convincing. I've got you, she said. I promise. In the week leading up to the wedding, Victoria became very helpful, too helpful. She stopped by the venue just to check logistics. She spoke with vendors to confirm details. She suggested upgrades, better flowers, better lighting, better food. Everyone assumed she had approval. After all, she was a Hammond. No one questioned the signatures. No one double-checked the authority. Victoria framed it as generosity, as love, as fixing what her sister was too modest to ask for. The night before the wedding, Victoria stood alone in her penthouse bedroom. A garment bag hung on the door. Inside was a custom-made white gown. Not off-white, not subtle, white. Hand-beaded, dramatic, impossible to ignore. She ran her fingers over the fabric and smiled at her reflection. Tomorrow, people would remember this wedding. Just not for the reasons Emma thought. The wedding morning arrived clear and warm. Emma was radiant, nervous, happy in a way money couldn't manufacture. She hugged Victoria tightly. Thank you for doing all this, Emma whispered. I don't know what I'd do without you. Victoria smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Emma's face. You deserve everything, she said, and in her mind, she meant it. Just not exclusively. Pause for a second. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to realize later they were planning something you never saw coming? Because what Victoria does next doesn't just steal attention, it changes lives, shatters a family, and forces a father to finally stop protecting the child he loves most. Hey there, my wonderful family and friends, welcome back. If you're ready to dive into today's story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments where you're tuning in from. I love seeing where everyone's watching. And guess what? There's another amazing story coming your way tomorrow, one you definitely don't want to miss. Alright then, let's get started. The ceremony started beautifully, almost too beautifully. Guests whispered as they took their seats. Glancing around in quiet confusion, the venue looked elevated. The floral arrangements were fuller than expected. The lighting softer, warmer, more expensive, Emma noticed. But she brushed it aside. She was nervous, emotional, trying to stay present. Today wasn't about details, it was about love. Then the doors opened. Victoria stepped inside and the air shifted. She was wearing white, not a soft accent, not a subtle shade, white. Her gown was dramatic, sculpted, and unmistakably expensive. Beaded fabric caught the light as she walked. A long train followed behind her, heads turned, conversation stopped. Phones slowly lifted, Emma's breath caught. For a moment, she thought she was mistaken, then the realization hit her chest like a sudden drop. Her sister was dressed like the bride. Victoria met Emma's eyes and smiled. Small, calm, reassuring, the kind of smile that said, "Relax, trust me." The ceremony continued. But something was off. The attention drifted, guests whispered. Emma's hands shook slightly as Ethan took them. "You okay?" he murmured. Emma nodded. She forced herself to breathe. She didn't want to cause a scene. She told herself it wasn't intentional. She was wrong. The reception began with music and champagne. Laughter filled the room. Plates were served, luxury plates, with portions and presentation far beyond what Emma remembered choosing. Then Victoria stood. She took the microphone like it belonged to her. "Wow," she said, laughing lightly. "What a night. Love is beautiful, isn't it?" Polite laughter followed. Victoria turned toward Emma. "Sis, I'm so happy for you, truly. You deserve this." Emma smiled weakly, unsure where this was going. "But being here tonight made me realize something," Victoria continued. "Love inspires love." The room leaned in. "So I have an announcement. A beat. I'm engaged." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Applause broke out, confused but enthusiastic. Emma's stomach dropped. Victoria beamed. "Well, almost. I wanted to recreate the moment." She nodded toward the doors. A man walked in, tall, well-dressed, nervous in a way that looked practiced. He crossed the floor, dropped to one knee, and held up a ring box. The room erupted, cameras flashed. People stood, some cheered, others glanced around. Uncertain, Emma sat frozen, smile locked in place, eyes glassy. Ethan's jaw tightened. The man stood, hugged Victoria, whispered something, and exited quickly. Victoria dabbed her eyes dramatically. Sorry," she laughed. "I just couldn't help it." She raised her glass. "To love," she said. In all its forms, the applause was louder than it should have been. Then Victoria added, casually, "Oh, and one more thing." The screens behind her lit up. Photos appeared, upgraded decor, premium catering, floral installations Emma had never seen before. "I took the liberty of improving a few things," Victoria said brightly. "You're welcome." Emma frowned. "Improving what?" Victoria shrugged. "Everything. The final bill was sent earlier today." A pause. "How much?" Ethan asked. 340,000, Victoria said, smiling. "Relax. Dad always covers it." Every head turned toward Robert Hammond. He hadn't clapped, hadn't smiled, hadn't moved. Slowly, he stood. "Victoria," he said evenly, "whose name is on those contracts?" She hesitated, then smiled again. "Mine. They wouldn't deal with anyone else." "And you signed them?" "Yes." Robert nodded once. "I will not be paying," he said. The room went silent. Victoria's smile vanished. "Dad, you humiliated your sister." Robert said, his voice steady but hard. You turned her wedding into a spectacle for yourself. Guests shifted. Vendors near the back exchanged looks. You are responsible for that bill, he continued. Not me. Victoria's face drained of color. I don't have that kind of money, then, Robert said quietly. You're about to learn what debt feels like. He turned to Emma. I'm sorry, he said. I failed you. Then he walked out. Emma broke down. Ethan held her as whispers filled the room. Vendors approached Victoria. Contracts in hand. Calm, professional, firm. Victoria stood there in her white dress, surrounded by people who no longer looked impressed. For the first time in her life, no one was stepping in. Let me ask you this, if you were Robert, would you have paid to keep the peace? Or let your child face the consequences? Because what Victoria tried to do next didn't save her, it destroyed what little she had left. Victoria didn't sleep that night, or the next, or the one after that. The calls started immediately. Vendors, event companies, legal departments. Calm voices explaining consequences with zero emotion. Contracts had been signed, payments were due, deadlines were real. Victoria tried to do what she'd always done. She ran, she left the state, changed her number, stayed with friends who didn't ask questions. Until they did, until the tone shifted, until invitations stopped coming. The lawsuits didn't stop. By 26, Victoria Hammond filed for bankruptcy. Her credit collapsed overnight, cards frozen, accounts closed. The life she'd always floated through suddenly had walls. Hard ones, but the worst part wasn't the money. It was the signatures. In her panic to handle things, Victoria had signed paperwork she shouldn't have. She'd copied Emma's name on documents without thinking it through. Without imagining consequences beyond inconvenience. That wasn't a billing issue, that was fraud. The charges followed quickly. Robert Hammond refused to intervene. No lawyers, no calls, no quiet fixes. You made this, he told her once, on a call that lasted less than 2 minutes. You finish it. Victoria stood alone in a courtroom she never thought she'd see from the defendant's side. Her designer clothes were gone by then. Sold, pawned, traded for time. She took a deal, probation, community service, restitution, $50,000 upfront. The rest on a long, painful payment plan. Robert didn't offer $1, so Victoria sold everything she had left. Her car, her jewelry, bags she once treated as disposable. She moved into a small studio apartment with roommates who didn't know her last name meant anything. She got a job as a receptionist. $32,000 a year, every paycheck. $800 disappeared before she touched it. 12 years, they told her. 12 years of paying for one day. Emma never called, never texted, blocked everywhere. Victoria wrote an apology letter. Took days to choose every word. She mailed it carefully. Hands shaking, it came back unopened. At family gatherings, Victoria wasn't invited. Holidays passed without her. Her mother visited quietly, guiltily. Like it was something she wasn't supposed to do. Robert stayed distant. Understanding isn't saying sorry, he told her once. It's living differently. Victoria worked 2 jobs by 28. Receptionist by day, cleaning offices at night. She stopped looking at mirrors the way she used to. Stopped expecting people to notice her when she walked into rooms. Her old friends posted vacations, engagements. Lives she used to think were guaranteed. She watched silently. Last Christmas, Victoria drove to Emma's neighborhood, parked across the street. Sat in her car as snow fell lightly on the windshield. Through the window, she saw laughter, warm light. A small child toddling across the floor, Emma's daughter, 2 years old. Victoria had never met her niece. She sat there for an hour, then drove away without turning off the engine. At 29, Victoria was exhausted, humbled, changed in ways no apology could explain. And finally, she understood, not just that she'd ruined a wedding, but that she'd stolen something irreplaceable. A memory, a moment, a trust that didn't regenerate. 2 years early, she made the final payment. She worked overtime for months, skipped meals, slept 4 hours a night. When it was done, she sent the receipt to Emma through their mother. The reply came back the same day, the debt is paid. That doesn't mean I forgive you. Victoria stared at the message for a long time. She didn't cry, she already knew. Some lessons don't come with reconciliation, some growth doesn't earn applause. Robert eventually explained the truth she hadn't expected. I didn't cut you off because of the money, he said. I cut you off because Emma spent her whole life stepping aside for you. I let it happen, that ends with me. Victoria is still paying for that day. Not with money, but with absence. She learned the lesson she needed to learn. But it cost her everything she thought she deserved, and the hardest truth of all. Sometimes being sorry isn't enough, because forgiveness is a gift, not a guarantee.
Thank you for watching all the way through. If this story moved you, the next one will surprise you in ways you won't expect. Go ahead and click the video on your screen. Your next story awaits.